to the Challenge to Change podcast. My name is Hazel, and this podcast is all about the little changes we can all make that will have a positive effect upon planet Earth. If you're new here, welcome. If you've listened before, welcome back. The Challenge to Change podcast has been brought to you on behalf of ANSA Environmental Services. To find out more about ANSA, please visit ANSA, which is ansa.co.uk. Let's get into the podcast episode. Welcome to this episode of the Challenge to Change podcast. As you can see, I am here with the lovely Lisa from the team that I work in. So Lisa also works for Environmental Services. So we have, of course, Lisa, spoken on the Challenge to Change podcast before, but not for quite some time. So welcome back. You're very welcome. So tell me then, Lisa, or tell everybody listening, more importantly, about your job here at ANSA. What do you do?
Well, I'm known as a community engagement officer, and I go around to different community groups in Cheshire East Council, from preschool, nurseries, right up to care homes and everything in between. And I give free talks on recycling, reducing food waste, or basically waste reduction as a whole.
Yes. Wow. So I believe that you have been working, is it a school this morning? Is that what you've been doing today?
No, I worked at a nursery yesterday. I was teaching them the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle song, and they were dancing and they loved it. If we can get the children at that very young age grasping this message, it's wonderful to see. And they love it. They love the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. And then I went to a library. That was this morning. We made hedgehogs out of books with craft. So
amazing.
Just to get across the idea of reusing and repurposing.
I've got two questions then leading on from that. So first of all, so obviously you said you were at a nursery yesterday. So how young were the children that you were talking to? I know you were talking to the nursery staff as well, of course, but how young were the children?
There were 3 and 4 year olds, one as young as 2. The very little ones just stayed in, just sort of stared at me, but they were trying to sing. Most of the children were about 3 or 4 years old, but there was a little 2-year-old there.
It's a really good way, isn't it, to get that message across to young people through that kind of music and actions, because it stays with them, doesn't it? So they've got, because it's fun, it's kind of a good way to sort of, let them sort of carry that message with them. So do you think, through that, do you feel as if they will have gone home, hopefully, to their parents and said that, even if they just pick up that it's really important to reuse?
Yeah.
We've nailed it really then, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? That's enough, isn't it?
I did ask them to tell the parents to look up the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. One little girl actually said, I'm going to sing it all night and do my mum and dad's head in, which is great because that's teaching the higher generation.
Absolutely. I love that. It's really cute, and it does make such a difference. And I definitely think through that song, it's a really good way to convey the message. Do you feel like doing a little rendition of it now for the listeners, or is that a little bit too much to ask?
I can do a little bit. Let me see, how does it start? 3, that's the magic number, because 3 is the magic number. And then it goes, we're going to talk about 3 R's today, and these are reduce, reuse, recycle, reduce, reuse, recycle, and it just goes on like that.
I am so sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'll get you back.
I would deserve it.
Look up Jack Johnson, the 3 R's, and you can listen to it yourself, and it's brilliant. Okay. It's really groovy and trendy.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So the other question that I was going to ask you, so you were talking about, did you say you were making angels out of books?
Yeah, we're making hedgehogs at the moment. Okay. My demonstration is back at the on my desk. But hedgehogs, they're really cute.
So the books that you're using then, are these books that are no longer in condition to be read, presumably? Or, is it things that libraries are getting rid of? What types of books are you using?
Yeah, we're using ex-library books.
Okay.
I had the head of libraries in Cheshire East contact me, and she didn't know what to do with these books. And because of the glue and stitching on them, they're not
Mm,
easily recyclable without ripping them apart.
of
So
course.
I said, well, we'll repurpose them, we'll make them into ornaments or book hedgehogs. And that's what we did. And we've never looked back. The public are loving it, children are loving it. And
Yeah.
it's just great demonstration of reusing and repurposing.
That's brilliant. I think maybe especially sort of people that perhaps don't work in a library, we don't always think about what happens to a book when
Mm.
it is no longer fit for purpose, because they
Mm.
don't nothing really lasts forever, does it? So things do run out, things do become unreadable, they might get ripped or whatever. So yeah, it's a brilliant message, and it's great that you're bringing it into a craft activity that people can keep forever as well, can't they?
Yeah,
So
of course, yeah.
so, for some reason, I've got in my head angels. So, I think I might have seen an angel made from books on your desk. So, that's probably why I was thinking that you were doing that. So, is that the next activity that you'll be looking at then?
It is, yeah. That'll be nearer to Christmas, so I'm just refining how to put the wings on and the head on. But again, it's paper folding. You fold each page of a book, two simple folds, and you get this beautiful angel. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, it'll be lovely. And as you say, the build up to Christmas as well. It's a very appropriate kind of festive activity, isn't it? And you can just, I guess you can just put them away and then get them back out again every year as well. So you can
Yeah,
keep displaying them each Christmas. You know, they don't need to be a one-off kind of ornament or whatever.
yeah.
So 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 tell me then, Lisa, more about the things that you do in your job. Obviously, of course, I know because I work very closely with you. So I know that you go out to other types of events, so things like food festivals and that kind of thing. So what kind of things do you do there when you go out and talk in the local community?
We have community hubs. I have little pitches at libraries where I just stand there, give out freebies, useful reduction of food freebies,
Mm,
recycled things that have been made into something else.
yeah,
We answer any questions residents may have, things like what can I put in my bin? Where does my bin waste go? And it's really interesting, some of the conversations and discussions that we have.
yeah,
And then we tailor these into specific talks for community groups. This could be church groups, WIs, Probuses, schools. And we go in and we just give these free talks on what waste goes where, what can go in what bin, what happens to your waste when it gets collected, and
yeah.
how to reduce food waste. And how to reduce single-use plastic. So it's basically environmental ways you can make small differences, small changes that make huge differences.
Absolutely. Do you think sometimes people do feel a little bit almost powerless, where they feel, well, actually, the things that I do don't really make a difference? So I think that is a, and it's quite sad, isn't it, when people
Yeah,
might feel that way. So I think you're right. What you say, small changes make a big difference.
they definitely do. Even using a reusable hot drinks cup or a reusable water bottle, it's such a simple thing, but you think of all them plastic bottles you're saving to get in the system. And we're fine recycling them, but if we can reduce that down, we'll reduce the resources and everything in the process. So even the simplest things, any residents listening now, I want you to know you're doing amazing. It seems such a little thing, but you are really helping. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's a brilliant message to get out there for people that actually these small changes do make a difference, and we
Mm,
can feel that we're sort of empowered to make those small changes. I know for
mm,
myself, like I try really hard to do the right thing by the planet. So if I forget to take a reusable cup with me when I go to a coffee shop, I sort of tell myself off, and I get quite annoyed with myself that I've forgotten. But all of those times where I did remember my reusable cup, all of those times where I've chosen to stay in the coffee shop, or indeed, for another matter, where you've just had a drink at home,
yeah.
So you have to think of all those things that you have done and how they add up. And of course, that's just you. There's billions of people in the world. So, all of them hopefully are trying to do their little bit. And if they're not now, maybe they.
I say a quote quite often in my talks. It's only one plastic bottle, said 8 billion people. But you can reverse that. If you reduce your plastic bottle use, you're reversing it, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm saving one bottle. If 8 billion people said that, we wouldn't have a problem with single-use plastic. So
This is true.
fair,
It's true. It's definitely the case that collective action does make a difference. I mean, there are other things that we can do if we want to. We can maybe speak to our local supermarket. We can ask them about packaging and things like that if we want to sort of go to that level. But just sort of doing a small amount, which is positive for the planet, it really does help. Definitely. It does. And of course, all the things that you do in your job, talking to people, educating them on, the correct way to recycle in Cheshire East. And of course, we do see here at ANSA that obviously sometimes mistakes do happen. People do sometimes put the wrong things in their recycle bin. And in fact, the podcast that I released, or the last podcast that we released, was about that. We were looking at contamination and some of the recent contamination items that had come through, recent pictures that were taken. But, and that's always difficult to see, but, it's also kind of reminding people that actually mistakes can happen, and people are, I think in the majority of cases, trying to put the right things in the bin. They're trying to get it right. And that's, it's fantastic when, people are trying to make that difference. Do you think it's worth giving people a little reminder of what things can go into your silver recycling bin? I'm putting you on the spot now, but I bet you know off the top of your head.
I do know this off by heart, Hazel. It's quite easy. That you can narrow everything down, the materials, to 5 basic materials. So you've got your glass, your plastic, paper, cardboard, and tin or metal, aluminium, that kind of thing. So they're the 5 things. There are other things that fall in grey areas. I'd just like to mention the 2 main ones. Plastic. If it's got any malleability, if it can be moved or squeezed in any way, grey bin or silver bin if we want to be posh. And if it's hard plastic that's rigid, that won't move, black bin. Same with film. Film's even easier. So that's the squeeze test. Do the stretch test with cellophane, film, anything like that. So if you pull a bit of film and it snaps and it bangs when you pull it and it doesn't stretch, that's fine for the grey bin. Anything like bubble wrap, cling film that stretches when you pull it, black bin. So it's squeeze test and stretch test, and that's your film and your plastic sorted, really.
No, that's really good. I think it's a good way of kind of indicating how people know, because as you say, plastic is one that can trip people up a little bit. And I think maybe another thing that some people are unsure on is making sure that things that go in the silver bin, or as you say, grey bin, silver bin, sometimes we call it a silver bin because it sounds much posher that way. The things that go in there do need to be clean, and they do need to be dry as well. So I think, if your tin of beans has still got loads of beans in it, that's not going to work for the silver bin. That will contaminate it. So eat your beans up. Don't waste them if you can avoid it, and make sure it's clean before you put that in. It doesn't have to be so sparkling that you can use it as a mirror, but it does need to be free from that food contamination, doesn't it?
I think does. Yeah.
Another one that's springing into my mind is that leave it loose message as well, which I have shared on the most recent podcast issue for this one. Is that I think that's another thing that people sometimes aren't sure on. So
there is a funny story I share in my talks. I'm not quite sure who got it actually over them, but I have heard the story that someone had put shredded paper in a bag, tied it up. We couldn't see through it. And when the lads manually sort the recycling at the depot at Middlewich, there'd been a big craft project with lots of glitter in. So as I hear it, the lorry backs into the depot, tips its load out. This bag falls from the top, bursts open, shower of glitter all over people, which was quite funny. And they never lived it down, but it's a good example, that is, of leave it loose. Don't tie things in bags that we can't see, because we need to get in there and pull out all the things that shouldn't be in there, like teddies and nappies and things like that. And then when it's accurate, it can then go off to the recycle plant. But we need to know what's in the bin. So that's why we ask you to leave it loose.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure they look beautiful covered in glitter. But on the negative side, it probably wasn't biodegradable glitter, so not so good for planet Earth. I mean, I'm sure they looked really festive, but not so good for planet Earth. And of course, as well, glitter, of course, can't be recycled for your silver recycling bin. So if you have done a craft project, couldn't go in your silver bin anyway, could it? You'd be better off reusing, so obviously we've got the festive season coming up, of course. So glitter on cards. If you do have glitter on your cards, I mean, a lot of cards are sold now without glitter, because obviously manufacturers are kind of getting into that idea of, well, people don't necessarily want glittery cards. I know some people might do, but if you've got glittery cards, you can't put it in your silver bin, can you?
No.
So that's another one. So that bag full of glittery paper was definitely in the wrong bin. But it's a really good example, actually, that is, Lisa, of kind of thinking about, when you put your stuff in the bin, it things happen to it after that. It hasn't just gone in the bin and then, faded from existence. There's an ongoing kind of journey for that waste that I suppose it can be, maybe it's difficult for people to kind of think about that ongoing journey, because they put it in the bin, done. But there's more that happens after that. I think I was talking to somebody at a community event that you and I did. I think it was Congleton Green Fair. And I was talking to her a little bit about contamination, and she seemed quite surprised about the amount of recycling that we process. But can you remember how many recycle bins we empty? I really am putting you on the spot. Or just how many houses we serve in Cheshire East?
I think is it 250,000, something like that. It might be a bit more than that. We do serve a lot, though.
We do.
And I wanted to make a point, but it's gone now. So keep talking, and
I'll keep talking. It'll come back to you. It is. It's a massive amount of houses. It's a huge amount of bins. So there's a lot of waste to process, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah, there is. Well, I have found when I've been doing talks, a lot of residents have said they hardly fill their black bin now. They're really good at recycling and reusing. We're one of the top 10 performing councils in the UK for recycle rates and accuracy. So that's something to be proud of.
It is, definitely. Yeah, I think it is. It's encouraging to see that people are trying to do the right thing. And I think for my part, because I'm the person who creates social media posts, so I do see all of those things that we found in recycling that shouldn't be there. Sometimes it can be quite disheartening, and I'm sure it must be sometimes disheartening for, the people working in the waste transfer stations when they're kind of seeing all these things coming through. But of course, that is just a small percentage. There are so many more people that are probably creating picture perfect recycling, but we don't take pictures of those ones. We just take pictures of the ones that aren't quite so shiny. But yeah, brilliant.
It's the ripple effect that works. I'm only one person. We've just had another colleague come into the team, Matthew. He'll be doing schools. But it's a lot of people in the borough that we need to let know these messages, which is why these podcasts are brilliant. And also when I give talks, even if I speak to just 10 people, they'll go home, tell their friends, their families, and it'll have the ripple effect. And they'll
Yes.
say, oh, can you come and give us a talk at RWI or at our Rotary or Round Table? And that's where the message is getting out there.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for your
Thank
time today.